Hello guys, everyone, welcome back to one of these videos again. Oh my god, my hair.
Need a haircut. Shit.
Today I'll be doing something different from the previous video. But before that, thanks to everyone who commented on the previous video. We had a lot of great comments. Very nice. So I thought, I should continue doing different stuff other than music. That doesn't mean I'm not gonna upload. I'm still gonna upload music, so be patient. Yeah, so today I thought of doing something called a tier list. Now, if you don't know what is a tier list, it's basically sort of a template where there's like levels and ratings to it, and you just pick a subject, pick a topic, and from the topic you just select a few subjects and rate them. I'll be doing a Marvel Cinematic Universe tier list. Yes, the films. I'm not a comic book nerd, so I don't know most of these characters, their laws and everything, but I am a fan of their films, and I have watched everything up to Spiderman Far From Home, and yeah, so I thought I should just rate them on how much I liked all of their films.
Disclaimer.
These are all my opinions. None of this are straight up facts or anything. So for some of you, maybe some of my preferences and opinions might not be very nice. Some might get offended, who knows, but it is my opinion, and if you have different opinions, you can just comment down below. I'll be rating them according to release order, so from Iron Man 1 up to Spider-Man Far From Home. So let's just get started with phase 1 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Alright, so as you can see here, I have the template and the levels. As you can see, we have the first level, which is insane, meaning movies that are literally hits. They're so good, they're so great. And then we have banger, which they're not as great as insane, but they're still great films. And then you have okay, which is sort of like a decent film. And then you have meh, it's a whatever film, it's just there. And then you have trash. So we'll start from phase 1 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, meaning the first film that we're gonna see right now is Iron Man 1. Now, Iron Man 1, amazing story. I actually loved it. Did a good job in explaining Tony Stark as a character in the film. And I think they did it so well that after that first film, you don't really need to look into his character as much because you already know what is he like and how does he operate. However, there is something problematic for me in that film was the villain. I didn't like his character. He had a motive, but it wasn't that impactful. So I think Iron Man 1, I'm gonna put it at banger. Obviously the villain is played by Jeff Bridges, fantastic actor. Never actually watched any of his films. Anyway, moving on to Incredible Hulk. Do I have to say anything about this film? It's it's trashed. I didn't really like the story at all. It was very boring and dull. From where I am right now, I'm looking at this film. It wasn't that great. Quite boring. CGI was on point. Next on the line, we have Iron Man 2. Now, Iron Man 2, not gonna lie, it was a fun film. Great fun moments. It had great humor and everything. Great action sequences again. However, I didn't feel like the story was powerful enough. Again, in Iron Man 2, the villain wasn't that great. I think most of the Marvel films, you find that the villain doesn't really play a powerful motive, and he doesn't really have a powerful impact in the story, and Iron Man 2 is one of them. So with that being said, I still think it was a great fun movie to watch, and I'm gonna put it an okay film. It was a decent film. Next up is Captain America the First Avenger. Same like Iron Man 1, I think Captain America followed the same method where they just focused on Steve Rogers first, and then they get into the whole transformation and everything. The story was quite fun to watch. It wasn't boring at all. It had boring and dull parts, but it made sense because considering the film was set in a time zone where war was a thing, they didn't really put much humor or fun to it. Yeah, it kind of suits well for the whole tone of the film. And I think Captain America was a straight up banger for me. I enjoyed the storyline of it. Next up, we have Thor. Now many people might think Thor is a great film. Me, it wasn't. You know when they have sayings like, when you release a sequel of a film, that sequel would never be as good as the first film. Like Transformers 1 is still better than 2, 3, 4, and even the shittier one, which is 5. For Thor, it's actually the opposite. I didn't really enjoy the first Thor film. It had a lot of boring parts, it was dull. It had humor into it. It had some fun parts, like the parts where he was in space and they were explaining the whole character of Thor and his father and Loki. Those parts were interesting, but I didn't really enjoy the whole of the film. It had quite a bland storyline for me. So yeah, Thor 1 wasn't impressive in my opinion, so that's why I'm putting it on meh. It was sort of there. It's not a bad film in any circumstances, but it isn't a decent film either. Alright, next up we have Avengers, the first film, and it's an insane film. It was a great film. In the time when it came out, it was such an amazing film because they managed to put all of these heroes in one film and still make it fun and exciting with all the action sequences and humor, and at the same time they balanced it well with the storyline. Like you would still get the plot. I think I got more interested in Thor in Avengers 1 than Thor 1. Anyway, let's move forward to phase 2 of the MCU film. Now phase 2 starts with Iron Man 3. Now I think the transition from Avengers 1 to Iron Man 3 was played very well, because in Avengers 1 there was a part where Captain America asked Tony Stark, "Take out the suit, what are you?" And obviously Tony Stark replies with, "I'm a genius, billionaire, playboy," or whatever. But the question was answered very well in Iron Man 3, because the whole idea of Iron Man 3 was he lost his big mansion and he lost a lot of his ego and arrogance. And also, obviously, he ran with a suit which was not ready for battle or anything. And I think it really answered well on what he really is without the power of his suit or anything. So with that being said, I think Iron Man 3 was a banger. I wouldn't say insane, because again, Iron Man 3 did not have a great villain in it. I think he had a motive, he had a backstory, but it wasn't powerful enough. It wasn't impactful enough. Next up, we have Thor: The Dark World. Yeah, straight up boring. I mean, the film wasn't impressive at all. It was trash. It was trash. It had very few interesting parts compared to the first Thor film, and they tried to make Jane Foster important in this film, but it didn't really work out for me. It was still dull and boring. The only importance of the film was the introduction to the Reality Stone, but it wasn't eye-catching at all. It was very boring. Even the villain wasn't a good villain at all. Like I can't remember what's his name. What's the villain's name? You know it's very bad if you don't have a villain that's not memorable at all. But yeah, it's my opinion anyways. Thor: The Dark World wasn't really a great film, so straight up trash. Next up, we have Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Captain America: Winter Soldier, great film, great action sequences. However, it was a bit dull and boring, especially when they were explaining about like Bucky's story side and everything. It was a little bit boring. I hate Falcon.
Dude is pissing me off, but
It was still a decent film. It still had a great storyline. So I think it was a decent film. So I'm gonna put it in okay. It was an okay film. Next up, we have the first Guardians of Galaxy. Guardians of the Galaxy was fun. It was an entirely new take on the space themed film, and they did very well, and it had great elements in it, great humor. I think the Guardians of the Galaxy was a great film. It was a great film, so I will put it at banger. It wasn't the best, but I'll put it in banger. Next up, we have Avengers: Age of Ultron. Now, I remember when this film got its trailer released, it hyped me up a lot because they did the trailer so well, because it was like a new take where it had a lot of dark elements in it. It made sort of a DC kind of trailer. DC fans, don't come at me, okay? Anyway, Avengers: Age of Ultron, its trailer was amazing. It blew me away and it got me hyped so much to the point where I had some expectations from this film. Unfortunately, it didn't really meet that expectations. It's definitely not as good as the first film. I think the first half of the film was great. I think they did very well. in introducing Ultron to the scene. It was a great first half. However, the second half wasn't really interesting at all. Especially the last battle didn't really got that interesting. Throughout the whole film, however, it had great humor and great action sequences like any other Marvel films. The CGI, especially at the last part, there were some areas where the CGI was
Not good.
I guess that's what you get if you have Joss Whedon as your director. I wouldn't put it in bang or anything. It's gonna go okay. It was a decent film. Next up we have Ant-Man. It was an okay film. It was decent. The film was okay. It was definitely very laughable. The ability to just go small and go big. It was very cool to watch. They did it in a very fun way. I didn't really like the villain at all. If any of you Ant-Man fans out there,
I'm sorry.
but for me, the villain didn't really play that much of motive other than he has to be there because the film needs a villain. So with that being said, I'm gonna put it in decent. Next up, we have Phase 3 of the Marvel films. I think Phase 3 starts off with Civil War. I'm not sure, but we'll just go with it. Captain America Civil War, which also known as
Avengers 2.5.
it had a lot of superhero characters, of course, and the whole idea of the film was definitely interesting. To have two sides of superheroes going clashing against each other was very interesting at that time to watch, and it hyped a lot of us to watch the film. However, there are some parts where it felt like,
Oh, I forgot I was watching a Captain America film.
there were some parts where you didn't even realize it was a Captain America film because of the amount of heroes inside there. And yeah, I think Captain America Civil War is gonna go banger. It was a banging film.
Thor is not doing very well at all.
Next up we have Doctor Strange, Benedict Cumberbatch film. Not a fan of Benedict Cumberbatch. I am personally not a fan of his acting at all, but I think I have to admit the film was a great film. I didn't really like the ending at all. It felt a little bit slow and not nice. So I think I'm gonna put it in a decent rating there. Next up we have Guardians of Galaxy Volume 2. They managed to make Guardians of Galaxy Volume 2, in my opinion, better than the first film because it had more of an emotional ride, which was very interesting and very emotional at times as well, and they still managed to stick with the fun moments of it. So it's a definite insane film for me because I had a great fun time watching the film. Next up we have Spider-Man Homecoming. Now this Spider-Man film was definite a success in my opinion. They managed to put Spider-Man in the MCU films and still make it better than the Amazing Spider-Man.
Sorry, Andrew Garfield.
But your Spider-Man version was shit.
I think it was a very good version of Peter Parker as well. It was very fun to watch. I think the film did screw up at one part, especially when they introduced Iron Man into it. I didn't really feel like Tony Stark should play a role in the film. I think the whole focus should be on Spider-Man, and once Tony Stark is there, it sort of feel like Tony Stark was Peter Parker's dad. Maybe he is.
Maybe he is.
Very good Spider-Man film, and I'm gonna give it a banger. Next up we have Thor Ragnarok. Now Thor 1, Thor 2 wasn't impressive at all, and I'm very glad that Thor Ragnarok absolutely flipped the switch on this. It was a totally different style of a Thor film. It had a shit ton of humor. It made Thor very much interesting, very much laughable.
Instead of this serious guy that has an hammer and has a lot of storyline in his head.
They actually made Thor more fun to watch. So with that being said, I think it's a straight up bang. It was a great film. It did wonders for me. Did wonders. Next up we have Black Panther. Now Black Panther, you guys already know, it's a massive success out there, and in my opinion it is a massive success because it was a totally different take on a superhero film. It was very cultural, very traditional. It had a different vibe apart from the other MCU films, and it was very good, very nice. And I think Black Panther is a massive hit in my opinion, and it's gonna go banger. I really enjoyed the film. Next up we have Avengers Infinity
War.
Amazing film. Wonderful film. It showed a lot of insights on Thanos himself, and you can actually get what is he all about and what is he doing and why is he doing all of this and how powerful he is. And I think that was very interesting to watch, that at the end of the film, you could definitely conclude that Thanos won. Next up we have Ant-Man and the Wasp. Okay film. Much like the first Ant-Man, didn't really hype me that much. It had interesting parts, especially when they introduced the quantum realm and everything, which was very interesting. Next up is Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel was an okay film. Don't get me wrong, I know there's a lot of woman power elements in it. If you're seeing from that area, yeah, it's a great film, but I'm not seeing from that specific perspective. It was an okay film. Again, the villain, not really my taste. Wasn't impactful at all. I think they could have done much more better for the villain, so I'm gonna put it in decent. Next up we have Avengers Endgame. Now Avengers Endgame, great film. It's a film that definitely ended the whole MCU film saga very
good.
They didn't really make Avengers Endgame complicated or anything. Like I said, for these kind of films where they involve a lot of superheroes in it, it was very hard to balance each superhero and the screen time they have on the film. If you haven't watched the film, go and watch the film.
What are you doing? It's 2020. Might as well watch that film.
It's a great film, interesting, amazing, spectacular. Every single great word you want to say, you can say it. It's gonna go on insane.
Next,
Spiderman Far From Home, which is the last film in this list right now, and it's a great Spider-Man film. I think they did very well in continuing that first Spider-Man film with the second one, and Spider-Man Far From Home had an interesting villain played by Jake Gyllenhaal, of course, amazing actor, and an amazing villain. It was amazing, it was great. I didn't really feel bored or anything. The film was definitely amazing. So I'm gonna put it in banger. It's a banger film. It's not an insane film, but it was a banger for me. Alright, so that's the end of the whole tier list. This is probably gonna be a long video to edit and everything, but hopefully you guys like the video. I'm gonna do more of these videos, not necessarily tier lists. I'm gonna try to do more videos as well. I have other ideas as well, so I'm gonna try to make them
as soon as possible.
Hopefully I didn't offend anyone. Don't come at me, please. If you want to try this tier list on your own, I'll put a link in the description below. You can go and you can do the same tier list on your own or upload somewhere else. I don't know, you can do whatever you want. And there's still some other categories that I can do. There are other topics as well. So if you have any categories or topics that I could do a tier list about, you can drop down in the comments below and I will check it out. But yeah, see you guys in the next video, I suppose. Signing off. I'm having difficulties in outros now.